One full year ago, I released this. That whole video was a joke, but despite the jokes, there was one line in that video that was actually true. I'm still working on my All-Stars completion review video, but speaking of All-Stars, yeah, I was late then, and even later now, but what's it matter anyway? These games were all already old when 3D All-Stars was released. That's 24 years for 64, 18 years for Sunshine, and 13 years for Galaxy. So what's another 2 more years for each of them? So in this video, I'm going to review not the collection of games, but I'm reviewing each game with the context of a modern day collection, meaning you don't get a pass just because you're an old game, because I still paid $60 for you in 2020. So I'm gonna go in order. Naturally, that's 64, Sunshine, and Galaxy, and 2 of these I'm looking at with a relatively fresh perspective. So let's jump back to 1996 for Super Mario 64. The first thing we're greeted with is this floating Mario head. It's iconic, but honestly, it's always weirded me out. Just a disembodied Mario head looking around all creepily, and you're expected to pull and stretch at his face. Why was this ever a thing? Anyway, I don't like to think about it, so moving on. Peach was speaking in full sentences back in '96, something Mario still hasn't figured out. And here, the game starts. I've got to be super transparent with you all. I'm not hit with a wave of nostalgia upon loading into this game. I played Mario 64 a bit as a kid, but didn't really care much about it. Look, I had the original All-Stars, and I loved it. There's just so much side-scrolling goodness, all in beautiful 16-bit. Yeah, that All-Stars completely redid all the games. So jumping through scattered paintings in a third dimension just didn't seem as fun as riding a dinosaur, or destroying castles, or finding secret routes leading to a star road. All I'm saying is I don't really hold any positive bias towards this game. You could argue that I hold a negative bias, but I would disagree. I don't hate Mario. Conceptually, I think he's pretty weird, but the games are typically pretty great. I just want to break down any illusions of all time before I begin. But I will leave you with this little nugget of positivity. I was actually surprised to find that I enjoyed Mario 64. Take that how you will, but my criticisms are just that, not a hate mob. I'm sorry for the long disclaimer, but this is one of history's games that are held dearer than the Holy Grail, so I've got to cover my back. And after experiencing the magnificence of Mario Odyssey, I'm ready to jump in and see what started it all. Super Mario 64. Let's-a go. We've got black bars. Come on, Nintendo. Don't act like you couldn't have made this widescreen. So our first level's gonna be Bobomb Battlefield, and I gotta say, I don't find this one very exciting for a first level. Like, even within the same game, I feel it's pretty low on my level rankings. Typically first levels are the most rememberable, but what is this even? A battlefield? Between who? And why? Well, at least it's a fine place to get acquainted with this new direction of movement. I take that back. Why should I be bombarded with projectiles in my first few steps of the game? We'll talk more about movement later, but one thing I have to address right now: camera movement. I've spoken a lot about camera controls in the past, Ironically, in a Mario-themed video that's essentially the precursor to this one. But that's for good reason. Seeing where you're going is one of the most fundamental aspects of gaming, and in a platformer, it's especially important, as one wrong step could mean death. The first thing that's apparent to me while running around this explosive battlefield is just how difficult it is to look around. This would have been many people's first look into a 3D environment, so viewing it in a reliable way should feel rewarding. It's not. It's uncomfortable. First, it's incremental. I'll give that a pass. Analog sticks weren't implemented to the right side of the controller yet, so we've got 4 yellow directional buttons to deal with. I would prefer a smooth panning by just holding a C button down, but I'm not sure how technologically feasible that would have been. But you know what? I'd be willing to accept incremental camera movement. It's not great for precision when walking in certain angles, but I suppose it's good enough. The bigger problem here is it stops. It just stops. Press it 3 times, it moves. But then, it just stops. Why? Did Lakitu get stuck on something? Figure it out, you old cloud monkey. If I want to look in a specific direction, I have to reverse my view 3 times and hope it doesn't stop again, before actually seeing what I want to look at. Sure, I can first person it, but not while moving. Oh well, I'll put up with it. It is an ancient game I'm playing, right? No use in complaining about something from the past. Only, this game was reborn in 2020. I'm not holding anything against the 64 version of this game. Nintendo updated the textures and other things in this collection. Why not do adjustments to the camera? We're not rocking C buttons anymore. Modernize the camera. Even give us an option to switch back to the original. Just make it easy to look around in your most famous game. It's frustrating and unnecessary in a $60 2020 game. Okay, I'm done. My last points to make on this matter is no y-axis. Oh, and that annoying camera sound. What is that even? Lakitu with a slide whistle? I do like, however, that our attention will be brought over to the chain chomp. We see our first star and figure out how to obtain it. The thing is though, this isn't even our mission at hand. So this tells the player there is no linear path for collecting these stars. That's cool. However, in the process, we were yanked out of the level. Perhaps that's just for the first one, right? Like, the game wants to show us that we can return to the castle at any time. Nope. Second star, kicked out. Third star, kicked out. The big sentiment behind these sandbox-style games is the ability to explore. So why dampen that excitement by bringing me to square one each time? For now, I'll lie and accept it as a technical limitation, and carry on. So what else does the battlefield offer? Well, our first hint leads us to a hilltop, where we fight King Bobomb. Pretty cool to start the game out with a boss battle early on, especially one that's not Bowser. But let's be honest, the battle itself is nothing special. Throw the dude 3 times. You're not even allowed to toss him off the cliff, which in my mind, that would make for a much cooler showdown. Then we got Koopa the Quick, a big turtle who sports a clean pair of kicks. He loves a good foot race, and it's actually kind of fun to track down the best route. Our next star is gained from using the cannons. I don't like the cannons. They're a bit tricky to control. The crosshairs don't show exactly where you'll shoot to, which makes sense with a real cannon, but this is a video game, not a physics experiment. One of those arced lines would help a lot to see where you're launching to. My other gripe with the cannons is you'll need to ask permission to use them. That's not so bad in itself. It adds a bit more to your mission, tracking down the Bobomb cannon operator, and that's fine. Finding him can be fun, but you're bound to miss time after time using the cannon. It's just trial and error. So when you inevitably get a game over from a failed launch, you'll have to ask permission again to open up that level's cannons, and the further you go in the game, the more risky spots he'll be in. Okay, the last star we can get for now is the red coin star. Scattered through the stage are 8 red coins that require different moves and techniques to collect. They really encourage exploration. I'm all for it. I'm not being cheeky when I say this, but I do love tracking down useless collectibles in games. It's a problem. So there is more stars to collect, but we'll come back for them. There's a few unlockable power-ups in this game that will have us returning to older levels for remaining stars. But for now, we've got more of this castle opened up for us. The second level I decided to tackle is Whomp's Fortress. I'm not going to cover every star going forward like I did for the first level, where you really don't have time for that. I'll just cover the levels and any stars that stick out to me. Okay, Whomp's Fortress. What I like to dub the other first level. I like this one. There's a better boss fight where you thwomp a whomp. Sleepy piranhas who wake and snap at you. Googly-eyed ramparts. And even seeing a thwomp here is cool, as ugly as he is in this game. Crushes Bobomb Battlefield in every way. So this level is pretty vertical, so it's cool to see some heights. But where there's an up, there's a downside too. Fall damage. Yes, fall damage in a platformer. What were they thinking? Though that's only a problem if you do hit the ground. Whomp's Fortress is in a free-floating island style that we'll see plenty of throughout this game. Just some platforms forming a world above a void, with only death below. And there was a decent amount of death on my end as I continued to adjust to 64 Mario controls. And with each death, it throws you out of the level. Sure, it's only a minor inconvenience, but it's an inconvenience nonetheless. Though if you lose enough times, it'll throw you not out of the level, but out of the game. I mean, that's fine for games that don't save your progress, but okay. Let's load and run all the way back to the castle. It's not too bad at first, but it just so happens that the further off your level is, the more difficult it's gonna be, resulting in more deaths and more outer castle jogs. Though I'm really speaking for the game in general, the fortress is not too hard. Most of the stars are pretty straightforward too, except for one. Blast the wall. Sure, in hindsight we are blasting a wall, but how am I to know I meant to propel Mario into the very corner of a specific wall? Let's move on. Cool Mountain. Let me tell you, it is cool. Probably my favorite level. I mentioned I didn't play this game much as a kid, but one thing that always stood out to me that I would picture anytime someone mentioned Mario 64 was the penguins. They're so cool. This one's chilling here, and it turns out you gotta bring him home to his mama. And it's hilarious to me how you can bring her the wrong one. Yeah, nothing alike. But there's also snowman heads, and slippery slopes. And falling will plop you down into the snow, which is a nice touch. And of course, we have the penguin race. It's like Peach's slide, except cool. Literally. So this big belly slider will challenge us. And for me, it was mostly a challenge of staying on the slide. Oh, that kicks me out too. So I fell a lot, but one time, I thought I was onto something. Miraculously, I managed to land back on the slide, and I was stoked to get a quick time. What? Cheating? I narrowly escaped bottomless death, and this is how you treat me? And this is before I knew about the official shortcut. So winning fair and square will get you a star. All the stars here are well enough, but one in particular stands out to me. Wall kicks will work. It was nice to stop and take the time to practice one of Mario's moves, though I'm still not sold on that second jump. This doesn't feel like it's how I'm meant to do it. Trying it on the back wall was a bust. Turns out, wall kicks will not work. Well, until they do. Last thing I really have to say is this is another one of those floating void levels. I only really brought that up at Womp's Fortress as a talking point, but maybe it would have been more appropriate here, cause this slope alone has caused me death after death after death. Oh well, let's go for a swim. Jolly Roger Bay. I actually didn't really mind this one. You take it slow, and you take it easy. Just listen to that music. Lovely. Despite the slower swimming, this one was nice to explore. I mean, there's not many places you can go, but it's nice not falling off the sides. One cool thing this level does is it changes after the first star. The ship is sunken at first, guarded by this annoying eel. Then you drain the water, and in your next go, it'll be back to floating on the surface. The only real complaint I have here is your health and your air supply share a meter. This can sometimes lead to a hit and drown combo. Though the upside to this is if your health is low for any reason, jumping into the water, then out again, will heal you. Bowser in the Dark World. So now, a showdown with Bowser. But a quick level first. So I like this one. It really takes the form of a more traditional Mario level, where your goal is only to move through it and reach the end. I mean, 64 really changed the way Mario was played, but I think that worked out for the better. But the level was a pretty easy one. We reach Bowser, and he looks odd in this one, like a man-child dinosaur. Swinging him around and launching him in the right spot takes a bit of getting used to, and it's not really the most fun mechanic for a boss fight, but I suppose it works. So upon beating him, Mario says his iconic line. Bye-bye! Wait, that's not it. This one only took one hit, and we're once again on our way. The first level I attempted upon unlocking the basement was Shifting Sandland, hidden within a wall. I'm really torn on this level. I like it a lot thematically, but it comes with many gripes. Positives first. Desert levels always look nice, and here, there's a lot going on. A pyramid in the center that commands your attention. Tumbling blocks you hide underneath. These pillars. Sandstorm tornadoes. A shell you can sand surf on. And finally, a buzzard that steals your hat. You can keep it. I look better without one. Now the cons. There's sand, which is fine. Quicksand, which is usually fine. And then there's instant freaking death sand. That's a bit overkill. And it's surrounding the pyramid. You know, the focal point of this whole level. There's an inside of this pyramid, which is cool, but there goes that camera again. It's centered and will not budge. I'd like to see where I'm going, not the wall I'm standing next to. And then there's that coin near the edge of the level. Narrow passageway along an edge and a slope. Yes, there's death sand within the level, and death sand surrounding the level. And that hardly visible slope is a death sentence added on. Okay, I didn't even get to my main point yet. This star right here is the culmination of all my negative feelings towards this game. I had so much trouble climbing up and getting it. Never mind the fireballs burning you or the shy guys pushing you around. Just traveling up the designated path led me to death after death after death. I mentioned the death sand surrounding it, so any mistake is an instant loss. This may come as a shock to a speedrunner or anyone who's played this game since they were 6, but this is a game that you have to get used to controlling. There is a learning curve. I've played through countless games in my life, even old ROMs that I'll never see again because I forgot the names of some obscure titles, and it's not often that I'll have to really think about the controls or in-game movement. Even when I've never played that game before, it just clicks early on. There's still some baffling things to me about Mario 64's movement, and I've finished the game, and with 120 stars at that, and it still hasn't exactly clicked. Okay, enough blabbling on. What even am I talking about? It's hard to say for sure, but it's some mix of the 8-directional walk mixed in with a stubborn incremental camera that makes it difficult to see from the proper horizontal angle and practically impossible to see from the proper vertical angle. Add in a somewhat slippy landing, and that's a recipe for dysfunctional platforming. Let me use Jolly Roger Bay as an example. This little area near the ship. Simple, right? I still have trouble with it. In any other game, this would be a no-brainer. And I hate to keep complaining about this one thing, but I truly think the culprit is the camera. I can't position it behind Mario in a comfortable way. I can't raise it to look down upon the space that I'm landing on and ensure his shadow is on the platform. I can't see the depth in front of me to determine how far before jumping again. It just doesn't work out well. Now stick all of that on the side of a narrow pyramid, and it's game over. Why is the slope so slippery? What is that, a 45-degree angle? I could walk that with my real-life feet, and I'm not a platformer character. Why does it feel so much steeper than it should be? Why does he gain so much momentum from such a slow movement engaging the slope? Why does he slide down with such force? Why doesn't the flat ground stop him? Why do I have to continue on from a blind angle? And why don't the camera's 4 increments match the 4 sides of the pyramid? Man, I'm going crazy with this one. Look, I later found out that there's easier ways to get this star. That's great, and I applaud the options. But I'm going the path that I was clearly intended to go down, and it was dreadful. But I got the star, so it's all good. Sorry for all the rant, but that was my genuine feeling in my first playthrough, and I had to recreate it for the review. Obviously, I'm at least a bit better moving around now, but I do mean what I said. It's not that plug-and-play attitude I have with just about any other game. I have to be more cautious than I like, and at times, I still don't understand why he moved a certain way, but I'll walk on more eggshells later. I like shifting sandlands, but the death sand and super slippery slope tend to ruin it for me. At least there's a thwomp, dressed as a mummy, so you know what? That makes up for it. Vanish Cap Moat. Another traditional style level. It's not really hard on its own, but chasing after the red coins gave me a little trouble. I've got some good screen captures of slippy paddles, essentially lethal fall damage, and Mario refusing to grab the ledge. Losing here expels you to the castle's moat, but the level entrance is near, so that's okay. But the best part about this level is the 1-up grinding. This slope alone has 3, so you're up 2 every single attempt. Oh yeah, 30 lives. Now I'm unstoppable. Wait, where'd they go? All I did was loaded my game. So yeah, Mario 64 doesn't care about your lives. You could risk it all in every level you go into, going out of your way for every single 1-up, and the game will just take it all away if you decide to quit. Sorry I gotta go to bed sometimes. It's better on the Switch because of sleep mode, but don't you dare decide to switch games. Look, the number of lives don't matter all too much because the game saves, but that just makes it all the more baffling that they'd decide to take them away. I just want to see that number continue to rise. So what? This only tells me, as a player, to not even bother trying for the extra little challenge, unless I immediately need an extra life for one specific section. With my lives reset back to 4, I head into Hazy Maze Cave. Okay, I'm being dramatic. I still had 35. It's after this level I lost them all. Anyway, Hazy Maze Cave. This is another one I liked a lot that I feel most others don't like. But it has really good exploration, kinda like a dungeon feeling. And despite having maze in its name, I really didn't get lost much. There's lots of rooms to explore, but they're distinct enough and are connected in a reasonable way. And, you know, there's maps plastered everywhere. So my first time in, I took the left route and quickly found my way to Dory. Cool looking Lapras guy. I could have nabbed that star in the center, but this door caught my eye. So I went in and was pretty confused. Turns out, this is a level inside a level, which is kind of weird. I think this is the only one in this game, but completing the short little challenge grants us the metal cap. So there's no direct way back into Hazy Maze Cave, but I did return, and the rest of the level was pretty good. It's another one where I'm not gonna slip off the sides. The Toxic Cave was interesting, and had some secret paths. I could see this section being annoying if you didn't have the metal cap, but I had it straight away. Just go get the dang thing. It's not far. The rest of it went smoothly, besides some monkey bar mishaps. Lethal Lava Land. This level's scary at first, what with all the lava, but it turns out to be not all that bad. The paths are narrower, which I think is a good call, since it keeps everything sort of close together. The bullies get a bit annoying, but that doesn't matter much once they're sizzling. The lava damage is really obnoxious. I get it, lava's hot, so you take damage and jump around, but there's no invincibility frames between hits. It really reminds me of the spikes glitch in the original Sonic 1. I really like the red coins here. Usually they're great for exploration, but it's nice to see them so close together in such a lava-infested zone. You can jump into the volcano, which is cool. Well, really hot. But the best part of the level is lava surfing on a shell. Aw yeah. Well, so long as you know where you're going. Bowser in the Red Sea. Oh look, more lava. This one's another basic get through level. Not much to say. There's red coins to collect like before. Hang on, I just collected a star, and it didn't throw me out of the level. I mean, I'm glad it didn't, but still. This proves that it would have been possible to let me keep playing after collecting nearly any star, right? This game's not that long. I'm sure they do that just to pad out playtime, but that really sucks. More time than necessary is just spent going back through places you've already been. The levels aren't too big, but still, it's unnecessary. Clearly Nintendo didn't want to update this game, but that would have been a big one. Let me collect all, or at least most, of the stars in a world in a single level attempt, and that would make replayability that much more satisfying. Anyway, we reach Bowser, and it's the same twirl and toss, but with a twist, or a tilt. Let's make like a Bowser and vanish out of here, cause apparently he can do that. Dire Docks. It's Jolly Roger Bay, Part 2, but not as good. One thing I do like about it is it also changes after the first star. But I guess by changing, I mean it just takes away the cool sub. Permanently. This back room, for whatever reason, always stands out to me. Maybe just cause it's the only place not underwater. And don't get too curious under the surface, cause that giant door doesn't lead you anywhere cool. It exits the level. What? Why? Really, what is the point of that? Snowman's Land. It's Cool Mountain Part 2, but less fun. This big head snowman will blow you and your hat off, and this penguin tries to be of little help. All water hurts you, this one instantly, and this one gradually over time. This here is one of the worst mechanics in the game. I don't even know what's happening. A snow shockwave? But it doesn't let up even for a second. Worse yet, this coin bag's got me every time. Yeah, this level's annoying. The only thing it has over Cool Mountain is turtle sledding. Tall Mountain. I don't have a lot to say about this level. Its design is done pretty well, though it is a bit forgettable. So our goal is to get to the top, a lot like Whomp's Fortress, but there's a bit more going on. There's an alternate path up, which adds variety, and these mushroom platforms are pretty cool, though easy to fall off of. But by far, the coolest thing about this level is the monkey. Fun little guy. Here's Mario and the monkey doing a little breakdance battle. And if you pick him up, he'll swipe your hat. It's okay, little fella. It looks better on you anyway. There's even a second monkey at the top, who will give you a star if you catch, then free him. Though I don't know why the star has to be thrown to a different location. Seems to happen a lot in this game. Wet Dry World. Not an exciting place. It's a water level, but you can alter the water's depth, so it makes it a bit better. I do like these springboard enemies with a Koopa tattoo, but there's lots of climbing, then falling into the water. This little caged off corner will lead us somewhere new, but it took me way too long to figure out how to get in there. One cannon shot and a swim through tunnel will lead us to this empty, sunken town. It's cool to see, but doesn't do a lot. This level is where I got my first 100 coin star at, though. And, hold up, another one that doesn't kick me out. All 100 coin stars allow you to keep playing the level. So this proves that it's not just some fluke with Bowser level red coin stars. So every level kick out really is just the game wasting my time. Damn. Tiny Huge Island. This level has 2 paintings that will lead you to 2 different variations. It's a cool concept, but a tedious level. This leap of faith is bound to get you at some point. And the fish here are hungry, but at least they're styling. I do like being face to face with giant Goombas, then switching pipes and walking on them like ants. And the inclusion of Wriggler as a boss is pretty nice. Just make sure you're ready, as there's no returning after entering his domain. I went in there once, looking for just a few coins to finish off my 100 count, and ended up a few shy. Next, I went to Big Boo's Haunt. I'm a bit late to this one. It's course 5, but I ended up skipping it. I think I checked the courtyard early on, and it was empty, so I hadn't bothered to return. Anyway, it's one of my favorites. It's got a spooky atmosphere, with ghosts everywhere. Defeating them will summon the Big Boo. Defeating him will unlock the upstairs of the mansion. So we've got many rooms to explore through. There's a false wall, evil books, secret rooms, moving coffins, even a monstrous piano. Jumping high in the right room will lead us to the balcony, where we have a rematch with King Boo. And falling through the floor anywhere will bring us to an underground carousel. And who do we fight? You guessed it, Big Boo again. 70 stars. Ah, how could I forget the endless stairs? I just got too many stars before even seeing that room. Shame. Oh well, not like I could have tried the backwards long jump anyway. Tick-Tock Clock. This is an interesting one. It's another level that I love thematically. There's a grandfather clock that you jump into to start the level, and the level itself is the inside of a clock. There's gears and pendulums and whatever else to make it tick. And our goal is typically towards the top of the clock tower. It's another vertical level, but this one sports a really cool gimmick. The time in which you enter the clock will affect the speed of the level's obstacles. It can be slow, or fast, or wonky with everything out of sync, or even be stopped completely. At one point, I figured stopping time would be my best bet to make traversing this tower easier, but I kinda hit a wall. There's some stars you can get like this, but the higher ones are blocked off. This did encourage me to try some more risky moves I wasn't well acquainted with yet, which was fun. But even then, we're stopped from progressing, unless we start moving time again. Just as precise as the clock moves, our movement as Mario requires the most precision yet. The only problem is, he's not always so precise. I think this level, more than any other, highlights Mario 64's awkward movement. The camera, just like inside the pyramid, tries to pin us to the wall, only showing a view from the center, and not towards the rest of the level. And then there's Mario literally pinning himself to the wall. This is an issue practically any time I want to do a backflip jump. I'll come to a wall that's a bit high, try to turn my back against it to perform a backflip, but Mario will awkwardly stick himself to the wall instead of turning around. This doesn't typically lead to any detrimental results, but it's annoying nonetheless, and interrupts the flow of movement. What can cause catastrophic falls is Mario's weird turnaround he does. In 2 dimensions, you don't have this. He just slides, then faces the other way. But you know what? He does that too in 3 dimensions, but only if you're moving fast enough. Stationary is no problem either, as he instantly is turned around. But turning back at a slower speed will give Mario this around-the-bend movement that can have you walking off a platform, or at the very least, throw off your movement, which is bad when you're meant to be doing some precise platforming. I'm curious how this one got through testing. It adds no benefit to Mario's moveset, has no realism attached to it, considering how I can pivot in place with my real-life feet, and it doesn't even offer a fun, respectable challenge to overcome. It's nothing short of egregious movement. And when I'm in a level that's so easy to fall in, of course I'm going to be upset about this, because it doesn't feel like I, as the player, have done anything wrong. When you do fall, there's little to catch yourself on. For whatever reason, they decided the bottom of this level should be a death pit. But you know what? Even if you do manage to catch yourself, that dreaded fall damage is gonna come for you instead. Best case scenario is you live and have to reclimb the majority of the tower. Even that doesn't sound good. Tick-Tock Clock is a fun level idea that loses its luster fast. Even this platform looks connected due to its perspective. But it's not. Rainbow Ride, our final full level. There's lots of fall potential here, and lots of waiting around. Don't take your eyes off that magic carpet for too long, cause it'll disappear, despite there being deadly obstacles in its path. At least there's this pretty slick shortcut. This level is an appropriate challenge considering it's the last one, but it's not exactly fun. Though I do like seeing this big house in the sky. And even Bowser's airship. And the multiple paths throughout make returning here a bit more bearable. Okay, it's Bowser time. These tilts are not great. And the big dino himself? Same battle. Again. Though he does have this cool holographic effect to him. With Bowser defeated, I have won the game and got the cake Princess Peach offered. Oh yeah, the story of this game is Peach bakes Mario a cake, but gets kidnapped before he can pick it up. So he goes on this huge quest just to get his cake. Yeah, Mario stories. Upon defeating Bowser, I have 96 stars, and that's most of them. This is from getting every level star I could, as well as some of the secret castle stars. So I guess we should talk about Peach's castle next. Upon starting up Mario 64, you find yourself in a field. Looking around, you spot a castle in the distance, and naturally, you want to run straight towards it. Inside is a nice sky theme, and many doors. Most of these are pretty basic, just a room with a single level in them, and there's doors requiring a set number of stars to proceed through. This is fine, I guess to keep you on track, but thankfully the numbered doors are mostly absent further on. This door up top will lead to our first secret level, Peach's Slide. It's okay, I guess, but when you have access to a freaking penguin slide inside your own castle, this one starts to look pretty lame. You do it twice for 2 stars. I said most of these initial rooms are pretty boring, but the exception is the Jolly Roger Bay room. It's at least themed correctly, being an aquarium, and if we jump into this hole, we can actually enter the fish tank. As exciting as that sounds, it's not. Our second secret star level is pretty basic: swim and grab coins. The first boss corridor has a neat feature. It's a Peach painting that gradually turns into a Bowser one as you draw near. Then you fall through the floor. The basement is now unlocked. We see a foreboding flame painting in the back for Lethal Lava Land. And this blank wall brings us into the desert. I'm not sure the thought behind this one, but hey, it's different. This room has some metallic goo for the maze cave. And finally, this room back here drains the moat. This gives us a bit of a shortcut returning to any basement levels. And this glass here is meant to be a one-way, but it's still easy to jump through. The courtyard will at some point fill up with ghosts. And these toads are looking pretty ghostly as well. Are they all dead, haunting Peach's castle? At least they give us 3 stars. Going up leads us to 2 of the most boring level entrances. They're basic paintings, not even in their own rooms. Then, there's the mirror room. This is a lot, just as an entrance to the bad snow level, but it's the coolest level entrance, I think. There's a giant mirror, and we see ourselves, as well as that poor excuse of a camera operator. And there's one painting missing on our side that only appears on the mirror side. So we have to peek at a reflection to jump in. Pretty neat. On the other side, we have the tiny huge paintings, which play with perspective. It's almost an optical illusion. Then heading up, we're nearing the end of our castle tour. There's no shortcuts up here, which sucks cause you'll probably die the most in the clock or Rainbow Road. But the clock is nice, in the shape of a tree, and it functions as a clock too. And Rainbow Ride, for whatever reason, is just a hole in the ground within a hole in the wall. And the other hole leads us to a not fun sky level for our final secret level. And losing here will dump us into the castle's yard. How nice. Then, the third cap stage. Well, I saved it for last because I found it last. It wasn't until after I beat the game that I looked up the fact that you have to look up while standing in the light to unlock the wing cap stage. Sure, it lights up early on, but am I really meant to notice the lighting's changed, then proceed to look around for the source? I guess it's not impossible, but I never gave that light any thought. Okay, so with the wing cap unlocked, I get to gain 3 stars. Yeah, all those signs spread around, and it's for 3 stars. 1 in Bobomb Battlefield, 1 in Sandland, and 1 secret wing cap level. But you know what? That's fine, cause I hate the wing cap. Look, I know it's iconic, it's even on the dang box. But to me, it's not fun to control outside of a couple instances. At least it makes the cannon shots more bearable. But that's the hub world for you. Obviously not the most impressive hub world, but then again, it's one of the first of its kind, so it's respectable in that regard, and there are some cool ideas throughout. I don't know how true this is, but I have heard 64's hub world was inspired by Castle of Illusion, so that's pretty dope. Anyway, most of the remaining stars are done by collecting 100 coins in each stage. Not the most fun task. Sometimes you lock yourself out of the 100 by going through a door too early. So there's that. I did them all once, but these stars make the thought of completing this game again a bit dreadful. But I guess that's one of the positives of this game. You don't have to collect all of the stars to beat it. You just need 70, so you can skip a lot of the ones you don't like. I didn't bring up MIPS before, because he was my final star in the game, or final two. So after chasing the rabbit, I officially have 120 stars. Full completion. Only thing left to do is to blast from that cannon out front and land on the castle itself. That's actually pretty dope. And look who it is, a very weird, off-putting version of Yoshi. What happened to you, man? He gives us a note, and then 100 lives. Yoshi, what am I meant to do with these now that I've already done literally everything I can do in this game? It's all done. But it's the thought that counts, right? So let's go over my final thoughts on this game, starting by reiterating my list of grievances. So it's a bit easier for me to talk about the negatives in a game, just because I can express what I'd like to have seen done differently, or I can question how a certain decision came about. I can show how a similar game in the series did it better, and explain the effect one matter has on the game as a whole, whereas I see something I like, and it's just kind of like, cool penguin. That's why I prefer to go into these reviews step by step within a game, so I can at least point out the positives, as opposed to it being one long rant video. So anyway, let me refer to my notes real quick and address the negative points. Incremental camera movement. It's odd and doesn't give you the best control. You have to settle on a specific angle and do all your platforming with a potentially awkward view. There's usually no 360-degree camera movement. Unless you're in a very open area, like the castle yard or Rainbow Ride, your camera is going to stop after about 3 presses. Wet Dry World has a good example of this, where you walk this plank like a tightrope, but the view I need is blocked. Lethal Lava Land's turtle shell surfing had me dying plenty of times near the back of the level. Again, just because my view is not allowed to change. The absence of a Y-axis movement makes landing jumps trickier than it needs to be, as seen in what should be simple jumps in Jolly Roger Bay. Or more dangerously, in Tock Clock, where this platform looks like it's connected due to the camera's angle. And just overall, the camera is often frustratingly in what feels to be the wrong spot, like how it only shows you the walls inside the pyramid or along the clock tower walls. Moving around as Mario can often feel tedious due to some extremely slippery slopes, as seen on the side of the pyramid, but also demonstrated here in Tall Mountain, where this ground is like ice to Mario, but this slope next to it is just fine. They look to be a pretty similar angle to me. Or there's this tiny huge island slope, which looks to be pretty exaggerated to start, but there's a few points during the fall I feel I could have saved myself if only Mario wasn't completely incapacitated while sliding. He will also stick to walls very easily, especially when I want to turn around to do a backflip, as seen within Tock Clock, but also very often before the actual level, as you have to jump high just to get into this one. The fall damage is something crazy to see in a platformer. It can really get you in some of these more vertical levels, which is especially crushing when you almost feel you saved yourself from the bottomless pit below. And the U-turn Mario does at slower speeds has got to be one of the most awkward feeling movements in a game, and it really throws me off when I'm expecting a simple turnaround. Mario's one-hit death unless he's big mechanic has thankfully been altered for this game, giving him health points instead. It's a wheel, divided into 8 slices, but it's sometimes frustrating, as many hits will take away multiple slices of the health pie. Invincibility frames will sometimes be completely absent, like when launching out of lava and falling right back in. And losing that life will throw you out of the level each time, as well as winning one of the level's 6 stars. Unless they decided not to do it on that one. Game overs send you out of the game completely, so you have to run up to the castle each time. Your lives will reset to 4, even when you choose to quit, despite the save function, so it's less rewarding to go after them. And lastly, the Bowser fight is the same thing 3 times, only adding in a few extra attacks on his end. So long, Dizzy Bowser. Alright, that's my gripes list, but I want you to notice something about everything I just said. That whole list wasn't really about the game itself. At least there's nothing irredeemable, and I feel that's a necessary distinction to make. Things like level design, theming, characters, story, game mechanics, and art direction make up the essence of the game, and they're all fine. Things like camera movement, character control, difficulty, or even respawn points could be tweaked and not change the identity of the game. And I feel this one needed those tweaks. I'm not gonna blame a 26-year-old game for its flaws, despite games older than it being pretty solid throughout. But that just shows we jumped into 3D a bit too soon, though it was a necessary stepping stone. But it's no longer 1996, and this isn't a simple virtual console port. It's in a collection that's meant to be an upgrade. They did alter the game slightly. See? Look at the visuals. They're more rounded out than the original 64. But it's not a big difference. Look, I'm fine with the visuals in this game, despite the blurry textures. It keeps the look of the original, but it's slightly better. Though a widescreen feature would be nice, if not expected. There's top borders too. We don't really need a full graphical overhaul like that Unreal Ocarina of Time, where the effects are a bit exaggerated, but it's impressive nonetheless. But after playing through and falling in love with Odyssey, I'm just thinking this would have been the perfect opportunity to remake 64 in the Odyssey engine. That would be incredible, and it's the only game that needs it. But now that it's ported, with minimal effort to the Switch, that bars that from happening for another however many years. Not to mention, it's now a selling point for that lame NSO expansion. It's a shame too. Nintendo could have even sold it for $40 on its own, and did Galaxy 2 and 3D All-Stars instead. Well, you know they'd do $60, but still. My point, anyway, is they could have at least tweaked the way this game handled. We're no longer holding a weird, 3-pronged controller. Our analog sticks don't have the divots the 64 controller did. We have a right analog stick, instead of bright yellow buttons. And I'm sure this is going to be many people's first time playing this game, so why not make it a better experience for them? You went in and gave us the invert option, which I'm thankful for, but you should have done more, Nintendo. Nintendo didn't exactly show this game much love, so I think it's only fair that my criticisms stand out. But you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and give it some praises anyway. One up the Big N. I talked about movement already, but not a lot on the moves themselves. Mario has many acrobatic moves at his disposal, and breezing by with the right combination of moves feels exhilarating. He's got a standard jump, sure, but do 3 in a row, and the third one will be super high. And it's used in great effect when you see a high ledge ahead. If the wall's a bit too high, you jump against it and propel yourself in the opposite direction using a wall kick. A quick turnaround in combination with a jump will do this satisfying side flip. When stationary, facing away from a ledge will let you do a backflip, which is a bit funny to me. He jumps higher backwards than forwards, but whatever. If it's distance we're going, then the long jump is the move for us. It's so fun to clear large gaps with this one. Just don't get your buttons mixed up. or you'll do a ground pound instead. This is useful against some enemies, and can even save your landing. Dives are sometimes necessary, but are just fun regardless. And it will forever be funny to me that Nintendo actually made a game where Mario goes around punching things. Oh yeah, and there's a crawl, but do you even need it? The backwards long jump is absent, which is unfortunate for those who are used to having it, and speedrunners, but I never really felt like a move was missing. I'm not even sure where it would have benefited me, besides surpassing the stairs that I missed out on anyway. This game has managed to keep its prominence for over 25 years. There's a lot of charm in the levels. Like those penguins, I remembered from playing this as a kid, but there's also the monkey who steals your hat, the snowman who wears your hat, or the buzzard who steals your hat, or Dory who's just chilling, big blowy snowman, or Thwomp dressed as a mummy. And the levels typically have good themes, besides 2 being repeats. And the castle itself, serving as a hub world, feels magical when there's a neat little gimmick involved, like draining the moat, or that beautiful mirror room. And returning players will know all of these stars like the back of their hands, whether they're fun to get, or more so dreadful to obtain. They all feel like they have an identity, to the point that YouTubers will do their own rankings on each of them, and fans will agree or disagree. There's a community built around this game, and it's hard to argue with that. Though I'll leave the return plays and speedruns to them. I'm happy to be able to say that I got all 120 stars in this game, but I'm not sure I'd like to do it again. Some stars are dreadful, and I'm not a fan of the control. But if Nintendo ever decides to actually improve this game, then I'm all in. Or even implement the DS features into this one. It's a huge missed opportunity to not have them in the game. Or at the very least, offered as a DLC they charge another $15 for. But after this whole adventure, I think I, as well as Mario, deserve a long vacation. So I'll see you next time in Sunshine.